Another evening I was there, and I was with a group of 13, and we were all sitting and we're visiting and we're chatting, and it's always a good time at Weisman's View. And this huge light appeared at the north tip of Table Rock, and it looked like almost the size of the moon. It was huge, and that it sat there at the tip of Table Rock, minutes, and it moved, and it went north toward Hawksbill Mountain. It was in the air, and it stopped. And we all marveled at that. We what are we looking at? Are we looking at a plane? Are we looking at, what is it? And that light made a 90-degree turn, and it came right at us. And it stopped 30, 40 feet in front of us. And it was huge. It was a white light, but it was a flat light. It didn't illuminate. It wasn't like a flashlight beam. It was a flat, white circle. And the 13 of us, we were all just stunned. We were all compelled at the same time to stand in a group hug and pose for a picture. Now, why we did that, I have no idea. Except we all did it at the same time. And we have no idea why we did that. After our picture, after we posed for this object in the sky, the light backed off, made another 90-degree turn, and went behind Table Rock, and it disappeared. It went toward Morganton or Lenore, one of those cities back over the mountain there. That was probably the biggest and strangest light I've seen. And I've often wondered why we as a group didn't discuss what we saw there. The next morning I was with these people for breakfast, and I said, "What the heck was that last night?" And no one would talk about it. They would just say, "Oh, it's pretty cool, wasn't it?" But no one would discuss it. So that I wondered, what the heck was that? It's probably been 8 years since that experience. But in hindsight, I look back on it and I think, what compelled us all to pose for a picture? None of us had a camera. We don't take camera equipment to Weisman's View. But this light compelled us all to pose for a picture. Looking back on that night, there was a loss of time. I remember clearly the whole evening. I remember the storm that had passed before we saw this big light. I recall conversations. I remember posing for this picture and smiling in this group hug. And then my next memory was sometime later, and I was sitting on the steps at Weisman's View, and I was being comforted by someone in my group. And I remember being sad, and I was even crying, and I was being comforted. And then I remember the rest of the evening clearly. I remembered I had a minivan, and I had 6 or 7 people in my car, and I brought them all back to the lodge, went to bed, got up the next morning, and it wasn't until just a few years ago I realized that there was this loss of time. So I'm curious about that. I'm curious why no one in this group ever wanted to discuss it. I'm just curious about that.